I missed my flight that cold December morning, and in my frustration, I did something crazy. I gave my house keys to a complete stranger, a homeless woman holding a crying baby outside Chicago O'Hare Airport. 3 months later, when I finally came home, I walked through my front door and froze. What I saw made my heart stop. The baby was there, but the woman, she was gone. And sitting on my kitchen table was a letter that would change everything I thought I knew about kindness, family, and the thin line between helping someone and destroying your own life. Before we dive into this incredible story, let me ask you something. Have you ever helped a stranger and wondered what happened to them afterward? Have you ever made a split-second decision that completely changed your life? Drop a comment below and tell me about it. I read every single one. And if you're curious to find out what that letter said and who this mysterious woman really was, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe, because this story has more twists than you can imagine. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Now, let's get into it. Michael Cooper was not having a good day. Actually, he was having the worst day he'd had in months. It was December 15th. And Chicago O'Hare International Airport was absolutely packed with holiday travelers. People rushed everywhere, pulling suitcases, carrying shopping bags, talking loudly on their phones. The noise was overwhelming. Announcements blared over the speakers every few seconds, and somewhere nearby, a little kid was having a complete meltdown. Michael checked his watch for the 100th time. 6:47 a.m. His flight to Los Angeles was scheduled to leave at 7:15 a.m., and he was still stuck in the security line, which hadn't moved in 10 minutes. Come on, he muttered under his breath, shifting his weight from foot to foot. Michael was a 32-year-old software developer who worked for a tech company in downtown Chicago. He lived alone in a small but cozy house in the suburb of Naperville, about 30 miles outside the city. He'd worked hard for everything he had. His job, his house, his car. He didn't come from money. His parents had been factory workers who taught him that if you wanted something in life, you had to work for it. And right now, what he wanted was to get on that plane. This trip to Los Angeles was important. His company was meeting with potential investors who could help fund their new app. If the meeting went well, Michael might even get promoted. He'd been preparing for weeks. But this morning, everything had gone wrong. His alarm hadn't gone off. Then his car wouldn't start, so he'd had to call an Uber. Then there was traffic on the highway. And now this, the slowest security line in the history of airports. Finally, Michael made it through security. He grabbed his laptop bag, shoved his belt back through his pants loops, and took off running toward his gate. Gate C-24. It felt like it was a million miles away. Michael's heart pounded as he ran, dodging around slow walkers and kids on those little rolling suitcases. He could see the gate up ahead. He was going to make it. But when he arrived, breathing hard and sweating despite the cold December weather outside, his heart sank. The gate was closed. The plane was still there. He could see it through the window. But the door was shut, and a tired-looking airline employee was typing on her computer. "Wait!" Michael called out, rushing to the desk. "Wait, please! I'm here! Gate C-24, flight to LA." The woman looked up at him with sympathetic eyes. She'd clearly had this conversation 100 times before. "I'm sorry, sir," she said gently. "The door closed 2 minutes ago. Once it's closed, we can't reopen it. It's airline policy. But the plane is right there." Michael pointed at the window. "It hasn't even moved." "I understand your frustration," the woman said, and she actually did sound sorry. "But there's nothing I can do. The good news is, we have another flight to Los Angeles at 2:30 this afternoon. I can put you on that one." Michael wanted to scream. He wanted to throw something. But he knew it wasn't this woman's fault. It was his fault for not leaving earlier, for not triple-checking his alarm, for not keeping jumper cables in his car. He took a deep breath. "Fine. Yes. Please put me on the 2:30 flight." The woman clicked away on her keyboard and handed him a new boarding pass. "You're all set. I'm really sorry about this." Michael nodded, too frustrated to speak, and walked away from the gate. Now he had almost 7 hours to kill at the airport. 7 hours. He found a quiet corner near a big window and slumped into an uncomfortable plastic chair. He pulled out his phone and texted his boss, "Missed my flight. On the 2:30 now. Will be late for dinner meeting but should make the main presentation tomorrow morning." His boss replied immediately, "Not ideal, but okay. Don't let it happen again." Great. Just great. Michael sat there for a while, watching planes take off and land. The airport was getting even more crowded as the morning went on. Families were everywhere, excited about their vacations. Couples held hands. Business people typed on laptops while drinking expensive coffee. And Michael just felt tired, and stupid, and frustrated. After about an hour of feeling sorry for himself, he decided he needed to walk around. Sitting still was making him crazy. He wandered through the terminal, past the expensive stores and restaurants. He wasn't hungry, and he definitely didn't need to spend $8 on a bottle of water. He just needed to move, to do something. That's when he decided to go outside for some fresh air. There was a designated area outside the terminal where people could smoke, or just get away from the chaos inside. Michael didn't smoke, but he needed to breathe air that didn't smell like cinnamon rolls and jet fuel. He pushed through the heavy glass doors, and the cold December air hit him like a slap. It was freezing, probably around 25 degrees, and the wind cut right through his jacket. But it felt good. It felt real. Michael took a deep breath and was about to go back inside when he noticed someone sitting on a bench near the wall. It was a young woman, maybe in her mid-20s, and she was holding a baby. Michael's first thought was that she was waiting for someone to pick her up. But as he looked closer, he realized something was wrong. The woman wasn't dressed for the weather. She wore a thin jacket that looked like it had seen better days, jeans with holes in the knees, and old sneakers with no socks. Her dark hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and her face was red from the cold. But it was the baby that really caught Michael's attention. The baby was tiny, maybe only a few months old, wrapped in a blanket that was too thin for this kind of weather. The baby was crying, a weak, sad little sound that broke Michael's heart. The woman was bouncing the baby gently, whispering something Michael couldn't hear. She looked exhausted. More than exhausted, she looked defeated. Michael stood there, unsure what to do. This wasn't his problem. He had his own problems. But something about the scene in front of him made it impossible to walk away. He approached slowly, not wanting to scare her. "Excuse me," he said softly. Are you okay?" The woman looked up, and Michael saw her eyes clearly for the first time. They were pretty, a deep brown color, but they were also filled with sadness and fear. She looked at him suspiciously, like she was trying to figure out if he was dangerous. "We're fine," she said quickly, her voice quiet and rough, like she'd been crying. "Just waiting for someone." Michael knew she was lying. He could tell by the way she avoided his eyes, by the way she held that baby a little tighter, like she was protecting it from the world. "It's really cold out here," Michael said gently. "Especially for a baby. Why don't you come inside where it's warm?" The woman shook her head. "Can't." "Why not?" She hesitated, then looked down at the baby. "Security keeps kicking us out. Says we can't stay inside unless we have a ticket." Michael's heart sank. He understood now. This woman was homeless. She and her baby had nowhere to go, and she'd been trying to stay warm in the airport until security kept forcing her to leave. He looked at the baby again. The little one was still crying, its tiny face scrunched up and red. It was so cold. Too cold for a baby. Michael made a decision. He didn't think about it. He just knew he had to do something. "Come with me," he said. The woman looked at him with wide, frightened eyes. "What?" "No, I don't." "Please," Michael said. "Just come inside with me. I'll buy you some food. Something warm to drink. You can sit in the warm terminal for a while. I promise I'm not trying to hurt you or anything. I can't leave you out here in the cold with a baby. The woman stared at him for a long moment, clearly trying to decide if she could trust him. Finally, she nodded slowly. Michael held the door open, and she walked inside, holding the baby close. They found a quiet spot in the terminal, away from the crowds, and Michael pointed to a chair. Sit here. I'll be right back. He walked to the nearest food court and bought 2 large hot chocolates, a sandwich, and a bowl of soup. When he came back, the woman was sitting exactly where he'd left her, rocking the baby gently. The baby had stopped crying, probably just relieved to be out of the cold. Here, Michael said, setting the food and drinks down on the small table. Eat something. Please. The woman looked at the food like she couldn't believe it was real. I don't have money to pay you back. I'm not asking you to pay me back, Michael said. Just eat. Slowly, carefully, the woman picked up the hot chocolate and took a sip. Her eyes closed, and for a second, she looked like she might cry from relief. Michael sat down across from her and sipped his own hot chocolate. For a few minutes they didn't talk. The woman ate the sandwich like she hadn't eaten in days, which she probably hadn't. Finally, when she'd finished eating, she looked up at Michael. Thank you, she said quietly. You didn't have to do that. I know, Michael said. But I wanted to. What's your name? The woman hesitated. Jessica. Jessica Martinez. I'm Michael Cooper. Nice to meet you, Jessica. He looked down at the baby, who was now sleeping peacefully. And who's this? Emma, Jessica said, and for the first time, Michael saw her smile. It was small and sad, but it was real. She's 4 months old. She's beautiful, Michael said, and he meant it. They sat in silence for another moment. Then Michael asked the question he'd been wondering about since he saw her outside. Jessica, what happened? How did you end up here? Jessica's smile faded. She looked down at Emma, her hand gently stroking the baby's soft hair. It's a long story, she said quietly. I've got 7 hours until my flight, Michael said. I'm not going anywhere. Jessica took a deep breath. When she spoke, her voice was shaky, like it was hard to get the words out. I grew up in a small town in Indiana, she began. My parents died in a car accident when I was 16. I went to live with my aunt, but she wasn't a good person. She didn't want me there. The day I turned 18, she kicked me out. Michael's chest tightened. He couldn't imagine being thrown out on the street at 18. I tried to make it work, Jessica continued. I got a job at a diner, rented a tiny apartment. Then I met Emma's father. His name was David. He seemed nice at first. He said he loved me. He said we'd be a family. She paused, her eyes filling with tears. But after I got pregnant, everything changed. He started drinking. Started getting angry. One night he hit me. And I knew I had to leave. Michael felt anger rising in his chest. How could someone hurt a woman? Especially a pregnant woman? I left in the middle of the night, Jessica said, wiping her eyes. Took everything I could carry and got on a bus. I ended up here in Chicago because it's a big city. I thought I could find work, find a place to stay. But it's hard. Really hard. Especially with a baby. Shelters are full. I can't afford rent. I've been sleeping wherever I can, parks, bus stations, here at the airport when security isn't watching. What about family? Michael asked. Friends? Anyone who could help? Jessica shook her head. I don't have anyone. My aunt made it clear she didn't want anything to do with me. I had some friends back in Indiana, but I was too ashamed to ask them for help. I didn't want them to know how bad things had gotten. Michael sat back in his chair, processing everything Jessica had just told him. This woman had been through so much. She'd lost her parents, been kicked out by her family, abused by her boyfriend, and now she was homeless with a baby. And yet she was still trying. She was still fighting to survive, to keep her baby safe. Michael looked at Emma, sleeping peacefully in her mother's arms. That baby deserved better than sleeping on cold benches. She deserved a warm bed, good food, safety. And in that moment, Michael made another decision. Another crazy, impulsive decision that he didn't fully think through. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his keys. Jessica, he said slowly, I have a house in Naperville. It's about 30 miles from here. It's small, but it's warm and safe. I'm going to be in Los Angeles for the next 3 months on a work project. Jessica's eyes widened. Michael, Just listen, Michael said. I want you to stay at my house while I'm gone. You and Emma. There's food in the fridge, clean water, heat, a real bed. You can take care of Emma there. Get back on your feet. Jessica stared at him like he'd just spoken a foreign language. You want me to stay at your house? But you don't even know me. I know enough, Michael said firmly. I know you're a mother trying to protect her baby. I know you're strong because you've survived things that would break most people. And I know that I can't get on a plane to California knowing you and Emma are sleeping on benches in the cold. Tears were streaming down Jessica's face now. Why would you do this for me? For us? Michael thought about the question. Why was he doing this? He'd never done anything like this before. He'd always been careful, practical, responsible. But maybe that was exactly why he needed to do this. Because sometimes, being careful and practical meant missing the chance to actually help someone who desperately needed it. Because it's the right thing to do, Michael said simply. He held out his keys. Please. Take them. Jessica looked at the keys, then at Emma, then back at Michael. She was crying so hard now that she could barely speak. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Say yes, Michael said with a gentle smile. Jessica reached out with a shaking hand and took the keys. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Michael wrote his address on a napkin and explained how to get there. He also wrote down his cell phone number. If you need anything, and I mean anything, you call me, okay? He said. There's food in the pantry and the freezer. Help yourself to whatever you need. There's a washer and dryer in the basement. The heating bill is on autopay, so you don't have to worry about that. Just make yourself at home. Jessica nodded, clutching the keys like they were the most precious thing in the world. I'll pay you back, she said. Somehow I'll pay you back for this. You don't owe me anything, Michael said. Just take care of yourself and Emma. That's all I ask. They sat together for a little while longer, finishing their hot chocolates. Then Michael helped Jessica call an Uber to take her to his house. He even paid for the ride. As the Uber pulled away from the airport, Michael watched through the window. He could see Jessica in the back seat, holding Emma close, looking out at the city with an expression of hope he hadn't seen before. And Michael felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. He felt like he'd done something that truly mattered. He checked his watch. Still 5 more hours until his flight. But somehow, the wait didn't seem so bad anymore. 3 months passed faster than Michael expected. Los Angeles had been busy, really busy. The meetings with investors had gone well, and the company's new app was getting ready to launch. Michael had worked 12-hour days, sometimes longer. He'd lived in a corporate apartment, attended countless presentations, and drunk more coffee than he thought was humanly possible. But through it all, he thought about Jessica and Emma. At first, he texted her every few days, just to check in. Asterisk, how are you doing? Is the house okay? Do you need anything? Asterisk. Jessica always responded quickly, and her messages were filled with gratitude. Asterisk, we're good. The house is wonderful. Emma is growing so fast. Thank you again for everything. Asterisk. After a while, Michael stopped texting as often. Not because he didn't care, but because he got busy, and Jessica seemed to be doing fine. He trusted her. And honestly, it felt good knowing that his empty house was actually helping someone. Now it was March 15th, and Michael was finally heading home. The plane touched down at O'Hare Airport at 3:30 in the afternoon, As Michael collected his luggage and headed out to the parking lot where he'd arranged for his car to be waiting, his friend had kept it for him, he felt a strange mix of excitement and nervousness. What would his house look like? Would Jessica still be there? Had she found a job, a better place to live? The drive from the airport to Naperville took about 45 minutes in traffic. Michael had missed Chicago, the skyline, the lake, even the cold weather. Los Angeles had been sunny every single day, and after a while, he'd started to miss real seasons. As he pulled onto his street, everything looked exactly the same. The neighbors' houses, the trees lining the sidewalk, the mailbox at the corner. It was comforting in its familiarity. But when he pulled into his driveway and saw his house, Michael's breath caught in his throat. Something was different. The yard, which had been covered in dead leaves and weeds when he left in December, was now neat and tidy. The bushes along the front of the house had been trimmed. There were flower pots on the porch, actual flowers, colorful ones, even though it was still early spring and pretty cold out. The house looked cared for. Loved even. Michael parked the car and sat there for a moment, just staring at his house. He felt a warmth in his chest that he couldn't quite explain. Then he noticed something else. Hanging in the front window was a small decoration, a handmade banner that said, "Welcome Home," in colorful letters. Michael smiled. Jessica had made that. She knew he was coming back today. He grabbed his suitcase from the trunk and walked up to the front door. His hand hesitated on the doorknob. This was his house, but somehow it felt like he should knock. That was silly, though. It was his house. He unlocked the door and stepped inside. The first thing that hit him was the smell. It smelled like home cooking, something with tomatoes and garlic, maybe spaghetti sauce. His house had never smelled like this before. Usually it just smelled like nothing. Or maybe a little like dust. The second thing he noticed was how clean everything was. When he'd left, the house had been tidy but kind of cold and impersonal. Now there were small touches everywhere. A vase of fresh flowers on the coffee table, throw pillows on the couch, framed photos on the mantel. Wait. Photos? Michael walked closer and looked at the pictures. They weren't his photos. They were pictures of Emma. Baby Emma sleeping, Emma smiling, Emma in a little pink dress. There was even one of Jessica holding Emma, both of them laughing. Michael felt his throat tighten. This house felt more like a home now than it ever had when he lived here alone. Michael? He turned around quickly. Jessica was standing in the doorway to the kitchen, wearing jeans and a simple blue sweater. Her hair was different, shorter, styled nicely. She looked healthy. Her cheeks had color, and she'd gained a little weight in a good way. She looked like a completely different person from the scared, cold woman he'd met at the airport. "Jessica," Michael said, and he couldn't help but smile. "Hi. You look great." Jessica blushed. "Thank you. You're really here. You're back." "I'm back," Michael confirmed. He looked around the living room again. "Jessica, the house looks amazing. You didn't have to do all this." "I wanted to," Jessica said quickly. "You gave us so much, Michael. The least I could do was take care of your home." She gestured toward the kitchen. "I made dinner. I wasn't sure what time you'd get here, but I figured you'd be hungry after traveling. It's just spaghetti, nothing fancy, but—" "That sounds perfect," Michael said warmly. They stood there for an awkward moment, either quite sure what to do. Then a sound came from upstairs, a baby babbling and cooing. Jessica's face lit up. "That's Emma. She just woke up from her nap. Do you want to meet her? I mean, properly meet her?" "I'd love to," Michael said. He followed Jessica upstairs to what used to be his guest bedroom. When they walked in, Michael almost didn't recognize it. The room had been completely transformed into a nursery. There was a crib in the corner, not an expensive one, but clean and safe-looking. There were stuffed animals on a shelf, children's books, a changing table. The walls, which had been plain white, now had cheerful stickers of stars and moons. And in the crib, pulling herself up to stand on wobbly legs, was Emma. She was so much bigger than Michael remembered. She had chubby cheeks, bright eyes, and wispy brown hair that stuck up in all directions. When she saw Jessica, she squealed happily and reached out her arms. "Hi, baby girl," Jessica said softly, picking Emma up and kissing her forehead. She turned to Michael. "Emma, this is Michael. He's the one I told you about. He's the reason we have this beautiful home." Emma looked at Michael with curious eyes, then buried her face shyly in her mother's shoulder. Michael felt his heart melt. "She's gotten so big," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "She's 7 months old now," Jessica said proudly. "She can almost crawl. And she laughs at everything. She's the happiest baby." Looking at Emma, healthy, clean, happy, Michael knew he'd made the right decision 3 months ago. Whatever inconvenience he'd experienced, whatever risk he'd taken, it had been worth it for this. They went back downstairs, and Jessica put Emma in a playpen in the living room. The baby immediately grabbed a soft toy and started chewing on it contentedly. Jessica served dinner, and they sat at the kitchen table, Michael's kitchen table, but somehow it felt like it belonged to all of them now. "So," Michael said, twirling spaghetti on his fork, "tell me everything. How have these 3 months been?" Jessica took a breath, and Michael could see her gathering her thoughts. "The first week was hard," she admitted. "I kept thinking it was too good to be true. I kept waiting for something bad to happen, or for you to change your mind. But you didn't. And slowly, I started to believe that maybe things could actually get better." She took a sip of water before continuing. "I started looking for jobs right away. But it was hard because I didn't have anyone to watch Emma, and I couldn't afford daycare. Then I met your neighbor, Mrs. Patterson." Michael nodded. "Mrs. Patterson is great. She's lived next door for like 20 years. She came over one day to introduce herself," Jessica said. "I was honest with her about the situation, well, mostly honest. I told her you'd let me stay here while you were away, and I was looking for work. She offered to watch Emma a few hours a day while I job hunted. She wouldn't even take money for it at first, but I insisted on helping her with grocery shopping and cleaning her house in return." "That sounds like Mrs. Patterson," Michael said with a smile. "I found a job after 2 weeks," Jessica continued, and Michael could hear the pride in her voice. "It's at a grocery store, just part-time, but it's something. I stock shelves and work the register. The manager is really nice, and he let me adjust my hours to work around Emma's schedule." "Jessica, that's fantastic," Michael said sincerely. "I've been saving every penny," Jessica said. "I found a free food pantry for things like diapers and formula, so I didn't have to use your money for that. And I've been looking at apartments. Small ones, affordable ones. I found a few possibilities. I just need first month's rent and a security deposit, and I'm almost there." Michael felt a strange pang in his chest. She was planning to leave. Which made sense, this was his house, and she'd always known this was temporary. But still, the thought of this house being empty and quiet again made him sad. "You don't have to rush," Michael heard himself say. "I mean, if you need more time to save up, you can stay as long as you need." Jessica looked at him with grateful eyes. "You've already done so much, Michael. I can't keep taking advantage of your kindness." "You're not taking advantage," Michael said firmly. "Look at this place. You've made it better than it ever was. And honestly, Jessica, I like knowing you and Emma are here. I like knowing you're safe." They finished dinner while Jessica told him more stories about the past 3 months. How Emma had tried solid food for the first time and made the funniest faces. How Jessica had taught herself to cook by watching videos online. How she'd started taking Emma to the library for free story time. After dinner, Michael insisted on doing the dishes while Jessica gave Emma a bath. He stood at the sink, washing plates and listening to the sounds of splashing water and baby giggles from upstairs, and he realized something. For the first time in years, his house felt full. It felt alive. When Jessica came back downstairs with Emma in pajamas, Michael was sitting on the couch. Jessica sat in the armchair, rocking Emma gently. She'll be asleep in a few minutes, Jessica said softly. She always crashes hard after bath time. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching Emma's eyes grow heavy. Then Michael said, Jessica, can I ask you something? Of course. The letter, Michael said. You mentioned in one of your texts that you'd written me a letter. Did you leave it somewhere? Jessica's face went pale. The letter. Oh God, the letter. Ah, yes. It's on the kitchen table. I was going to give it to you earlier, but I chickened out. Michael felt his stomach drop. Why did she look so nervous? He walked to the kitchen and found an envelope with his name on it, written in careful handwriting. He brought it back to the living room and sat down. Should I read it now? He asked. Jessica nodded, though she wouldn't meet his eyes. You should. But Michael, please understand. I never meant for any of this to happen. I never meant to lie to you. Lie? What was she talking about? With growing concern, Michael opened the envelope and pulled out several handwritten pages. He began to read. Dear Michael. I don't even know how to start this letter. I've written it 100 times in my head, and it never comes out right. But you deserve the truth. You've been so kind to me, so generous, and I'd been lying to you from the beginning. My name is Jessica Martinez, that part is true. But almost everything else I told you was a lie. I didn't grow up in Indiana. I grew up right here in Illinois, in a town called Springfield. My parents didn't die in a car accident when I was 16. They're alive. They live in Florida now. We don't talk anymore, but not because they abandoned me. It's because I made terrible choices and pushed them away. I did meet a man named David, and I did get pregnant. But David wasn't abusive. He was actually a good guy. Too good for me. When I told him I was pregnant, he wanted to get married, wanted to be a father. But I panicked. I was scared. I wasn't ready to be a mother. So I ran. I left in the middle of the night, just like I told you. But I didn't leave to escape abuse. I left because I was a coward. I ended up homeless because I was too ashamed to call my parents or David. I was too proud to admit I'd made a mistake. And by the time I realized how hard it was to survive on the streets with a baby, too much time had passed. I didn't know how to go back. When I met you at the airport that day, I saw a chance. A way out. And I took it. I made up a story I thought would make you feel sorry for me. I made myself into a victim because I knew you seemed like a good person who would want to help. And you did help. You gave me everything, Michael. You gave me a home, safety, a chance to get back on my feet. And every single day, I felt more and more guilty about lying to you. I tried to tell you the truth so many times. I picked up the phone 100 times to call you. But I was terrified. Terrified that you'd kick us out, that Emma and I would end up back on the streets, that I'd lose the first good thing that had happened to us in months. But you deserve to know the truth. And Emma deserves a mother who's honest, who takes responsibility for her mistakes. Here's the complete truth. I'm not a victim of abuse. I'm just a scared young woman who made bad choices and ran away from her problems. I haven't been a good daughter. I haven't been fair to David, who still doesn't even know he has a daughter. And I haven't been honest with you. I've saved up almost enough money for an apartment. When you get back, I'll leave. I'll get out of your life. You don't have to worry about me causing more problems. But before I go, I need you to know something. You changed my life, Michael. Not just by giving me a place to stay, but by showing me what real kindness looks like. You didn't ask for anything in return. You just helped because you thought it was the right thing to do. You made me want to be a better person. You made me want to face the things I'd been running from. I've started writing to my parents. I haven't sent the letters yet, but I'm working up the courage. I've also been trying to find David. He deserves to know about Emma. Asterisk. I'm so sorry for lying to you. You trusted me, and I betrayed that trust. I understand if you're angry. I understand if you want me to leave immediately. Asterisk. Whatever happens, thank you. Thank you for giving Emma and me a chance when no one else would. You'll never know how much that meant. Asterisk. With sincere gratitude and deepest apologies. Jessica. Michael sat there, holding the letter in his shaking hands. He read it twice, then 3 times, making sure he understood every word. Jessica had lied to him. The whole story about her parents dying, about her aunt kicking her out, about David being abusive, it was all made up. He should be furious. He should be telling her to pack her things and get out. But as he looked up and saw Jessica sitting in the chair, tears streaming down her face, holding Emma close, he didn't feel angry. He felt sad. And confused. And strangely, he also felt relieved. Jessica, he said quietly. She looked at him, her eyes red from crying. I'm so sorry, Michael. I'm so sorry. I'll leave tonight if you want. I'll find somewhere. Stop, Michael said, holding up his hand. Just stop. He set the letter down on the coffee table and leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. Why didn't you tell me the truth from the beginning? He asked. Jessica wiped her eyes. Because I was ashamed. And because I thought if I told you the truth, that I was just a screw-up who ran away from her own life, you wouldn't help me. People help victims. They don't help people like me, people who made their own mess. Michael was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked, Is Emma healthy? Are you taking care of her? Jessica nodded quickly. Yes. I swear. She's had all her checkups. She's healthy and happy. I would never. I know, Michael said. I can see that. She's clearly loved and well cared for. She is, Jessica whispered. She's everything to me. Michael stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the dark street. He needed a minute to think. Yes, Jessica had lied to him. That hurt. But she'd also just spent 3 months proving that she was trying to change, trying to be better. She'd gotten a job. She'd taken care of his house. She'd been responsible and respectful. And most importantly, she'd told him the truth now. She could have kept lying. She could have hidden the letter and continued the charade. But she didn't. She'd been brave enough to confess. Michael turned back to face her. Jessica, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm disappointed that you weren't honest with me from the start. Trust is important to me. Jessica nodded, fresh tears falling. I know. I'm so sorry. But, Michael continued, I also understand why you lied. You were desperate. You were scared. You were trying to protect your daughter. I don't agree with it, but I understand it. Jessica looked up at him with surprise. You're not kicking us out? No, Michael said. I'm not kicking you out. But we need to make a deal, okay? From now on, complete honesty. No more lies, even small ones. If we're going to make this work, I need to know I can trust you. Make this work? Jessica repeated, confused. What do you mean? Michael sat back down on the couch. I mean, you can stay here as long as you need to. But I want you to do something for me. Anything, Jessica said immediately. I want you to contact your parents, Michael said. And I want you to tell David about Emma. He's her father. He has a right to know she exists. Jessica's face went white. Michael, I don't know if I can. You can't, Michael said firmly. You've already proven you're braver than you think. You survived on the streets. You're raising Emma alone. You got a job. You told me the truth even though you were terrified. You can do this too. Jessica looked down at Emma, who had finally fallen asleep in her arms. What if they hate me? She whispered. What if my parents won't forgive me? What if David is so angry that he tries to take Emma away? Those are all possibilities, Michael admitted. But not telling them, that's guaranteed to end badly. Emma deserves to know her family. And you deserve a chance to make things right. Jessica was quiet for a long time. Then, slowly, she nodded. Okay, she said, her voice barely audible. I'll do it. I'll call my parents tomorrow. And I'll find a way to contact David. Good, Michael said. He stood up and stretched. Now I'm exhausted from traveling. I'm going to head to bed. But Jessica? Yes? Thank you for telling me the truth. That took courage. Jessica gave him a watery smile. Thank you for not hating me. I could never hate you, Michael said honestly. We all make mistakes. What matters is what we do to fix them. The next morning, Michael woke up to the smell of coffee and pancakes. He came downstairs to find Jessica in the kitchen, Emma in her high chair eating cut-up bananas, and a stack of pancakes on the table. I figured you might want a real breakfast, Jessica said, looking nervous. After all those months of restaurant food in LA. This is perfect, Michael said, pouring himself coffee. Thank you. They ate breakfast together, and it felt surprisingly normal. Emma babbled happily, throwing pieces of banana on the floor, and Jessica kept apologizing while Michael just laughed. After breakfast, Jessica took a deep breath. I'm going to call my parents now, she said. While I still have the courage. Michael nodded encouragingly. I'll watch Emma. Take your time. Jessica went upstairs with her phone, and Michael could hear her voice, though not the words. Emma played on the living room floor, and Michael sat nearby, building block towers for her to knock down. About 30 minutes later, Jessica came back downstairs. Her eyes were red, but she was smiling. They answered, she said, her voice choked with emotion. I told them everything. About Emma, about being homeless, about all of it. How did they react? Michael asked gently. My mom cried, Jessica said. My dad was quiet at first. But then he said they'd been hoping I would call. They said they never stopped loving me, even when I pushed them away. They want to meet Emma. They're going to fly here next week. Michael felt his own eyes getting wet. Jessica, that's wonderful. They also gave me David's number. Jessica continued. They've been in touch with him all this time. He's been looking for me. Looking for us. Michael's eyebrows shot up. Really? Jessica nodded. He's been trying to find me since I left. He wants to be a father, Michael. He never stopped wanting that. Are you going to call him? Michael asked. I already did, Jessica said, wiping her eyes. He answered on the first ring. When I told him about Emma, he started crying. Happy crying. He wants to meet her. He's driving up from Springfield this weekend. Michael stood up and pulled Jessica into a hug. She cried into his shoulder, and he just held her, letting her release all the fear and guilt and relief she'd been holding on to. I'm so proud of you, Michael said quietly. You did the right thing. I couldn't have done it without you, Jessica said. You gave me the safety and space to become someone brave enough to face this. They pulled apart, and Jessica laughed through her tears. I don't know what happens next, she said. I don't know if my parents will forgive everything. I don't know what David and I will figure out about Emma. But for the first time in a long time, I feel hopeful. That's all you need, Michael said. Hope and the courage to keep moving forward. The following weeks were a whirlwind. Jessica's parents flew in from Florida, and the reunion was emotional and healing. They fell in love with Emma immediately. Jessica's mother held her granddaughter and cried happy tears, and her father kept saying, She has your eyes, Jessie. She has your beautiful eyes. They didn't approve of all of Jessica's choices, but they loved her anyway. That's what family does. David came to visit the next weekend. He was a nice guy, exactly how Jessica had described him in her letter. Tall, with kind eyes and an honest smile. When he met Emma for the first time, he got down on his knees and just stared at her with wonder. She's perfect, he whispered. She's absolutely perfect. Jessica and David had a long conversation about the future. He wasn't angry with her, though he admitted he'd been hurt when she left. But he understood now. He understood that Jessica had been scared, and he didn't hold it against her. They agreed to co-parent. David got a job transfer to Chicago so he could be close to Emma. They weren't going to get back together romantically. Too much had happened, but they were going to be friends and partners in raising their daughter. Michael watched all of this unfold with a sense of satisfaction. This was what he'd hoped for when he gave Jessica his keys. Not just a temporary roof over her head, but a real chance to rebuild her life. But there was still one more surprise coming. One evening in April, about a month after Michael had returned home, Jessica came to him with a serious expression. "Michael, I need to talk to you about something." They sat down in the living room. Emma was already asleep upstairs. "What's up?" Michael asked. Jessica took a breath. "My parents want me to move to Florida with Emma. They have a house with extra room, and they want to help me raise her. They've even found job opportunities for me there." Michael felt his heart sink. He'd known this was coming eventually, but it still hurt. "That sounds like a great opportunity," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "It is," Jessica agreed. "But I don't want to take it." Michael blinked. "What? Why not?" "Because Chicago is Emma's home now," Jessica said. "David is here. My job is here. And you're here." "Jessica, let me finish," she said. "You changed my life, Michael. You gave me a second chance when I didn't deserve it. And over these months, you've become more than just someone who helped me. You've become family." Michael felt his throat tighten. "I don't want to leave," Jessica continued. "I want to stay in Chicago. I want Emma to grow up knowing you, knowing the man who saved us. But I also don't want to keep living in your house. That's not fair to you. I told you you can stay as long as you need," Michael said. "I know," Jessica said. "But I found an apartment. A small one-bedroom about 2 miles from here. I've saved enough for the deposit and 3 months' rent. David is going to help with child support. I can make this work." Michael nodded slowly. "If that's what you want, then I support you." "Thank you," Jessica said. "But there's one more thing. I want you to be in Emma's life. Not just as the guy who helped us once, but as someone who matters. Like an uncle. If that's okay with you." Michael felt tears prick his eyes. "I would love that, Jessica. I really would." They hugged, and in that moment, Michael realized something important. He'd gone to the airport that day thinking his missed flight was the worst thing that could happen. But it had actually been the best thing. Because that missed flight had led him to Jessica and Emma. It had led him to become part of a family he never knew he needed. 3 years later, Michael Cooper sat on a blanket in the park, watching Emma, now 3.5 years old, run around with the other kids on the playground. "Uncle Mike! Uncle Mike! Watch me slide!" she called out, climbing up the ladder to the big slide. "I'm watching!" Michael called back, his phone out and ready to record. Jessica sat next to him on the blanket, laughing. "She's fearless. I don't know where she gets it." "She gets it from you," Michael said with a smile. David was there too, pushing Emma gently from behind as she positioned herself at the top of the slide. When she slid down, squealing with joy, both Michael and David cheered. It had been 3 years since that day at the airport. 3 years of watching Emma grow, of becoming part of this unconventional but loving family. Jessica had thrived in her little apartment. She'd gotten promoted at work and was now managing the store where she'd started as a shelf stocker. She'd reconnected fully with her parents, who visited often. And she'd maintained a healthy co-parenting relationship with David. Michael had been there for all of it: birthdays, holidays, Emma's first steps, her first words. He was Uncle Mike, Emma's favorite person in the whole world, though she said that about everyone. "You know," Jessica said, watching Emma play, "I still think about that day sometimes. The day I met you at the airport. If you hadn't stopped to help me, you would have figured it out." Michael said. You're stronger than you think. Maybe, Jessica said. But I'm glad I didn't have to do it alone. She looked at him with warm eyes. Thank you, Michael. For everything. Thank you, Michael said. For letting me be part of your lives. Emma ran over then, breathless and sweaty from playing. Uncle Mike! Are we going for ice cream now? You promised. Michael laughed and stood up, brushing grass off his jeans. Yes, we're going for ice cream. Come on, let's go. As they walked toward the ice cream shop, Michael holding one of Emma's hands and David holding the other, with Jessica walking beside them, Michael thought about how much his life had changed. He'd missed a flight 3 years ago and made a crazy decision to help a stranger. And that decision had given him something he never knew he was missing, a family. Not a traditional family, maybe, but a real one, built on kindness, second chances, and the belief that people deserve help even when, especially when, they've made mistakes. Michael looked down at Emma, who was chattering excitedly about what flavor ice cream she wanted, and he smiled. Missing that flight had been the best thing that ever happened to him. The end. Closing message. Sometimes the biggest blessings come from the moments we think are disasters. Michael thought missing his flight was the worst day ever, but it led him to a family he never knew he needed. Jessica learned that it's never too late to tell the truth and face your mistakes. And Emma grew up surrounded by people who loved her, a mother who fought to be better, a father who never gave up looking for her, and an uncle who showed up when it mattered most. This story teaches us that kindness creates ripples we can't always see. One act of compassion, giving a stranger your house key, can change multiple lives forever. What would you do if you met someone who needed help? Would you take the risk? Would you show kindness even if it was inconvenient? Drop a comment below and let me know. And if this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe for more inspiring stories about hope, redemption, and the power of human kindness. Remember, we all have the power to change someone's life. Sometimes all it takes is missing a flight and having the courage to care. Thank you for reading, and I'll see you in the next story.